So hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Sanskar, and in this video we are going to continue with our series of creating a to-do web app, Flutter and Firebase. So far what we have done, we actually created this sign in screen with sign in with Google option. We also connected the app with Firebase, so everything is functioning. The backend is completed and the front end is completed till now of the sign in with Google option. The next step which we want to do now is we want to learn about CRUD operation with Flutter and Firebase. So basically performing create, read, update and delete operations. So let me show you how it is going to work. So we are going to have a simple text of my day, and then we are going to have the day which we are in today. So for example, today is May 25. So I'm going to show the day of the week. I'm going to show the month and then also the day what it is. Then we are going to show the user an option to submit a task. So for example, he can write something like create a video. So this is the task which I have right now. So I can click on add and that task will be added over here. So this is a create a video task. Now this is the first operation, which is create. Now since we are showing all the data from our database in a list view, that is a read task, right? And the third task, which is update. So when I will click over here, it this particular task is assigned as completed, which is that we are updating the database. So that's the third operation, and the fourth one is delete. So when we click on this cross, the task will be deleted. So we will be learning all the four things, the whole CRUD operation with Firebase. So let's get started. So the first thing which I would do is I am just going to put it this side so that we can see side by side what we are going to build and what we want to build. So one thing, just a second. I think I'm going to like open that again, since if you have watched the previous part of part 2, we understand that the Google sign-in is not going to work on this debug browser. That's why we use this command, and we run this in a localhost 5000, because in the last video we see that 5000 localhost was whitelisted and we can actually test our Google sign-in over there. So that's what we are going to do, and for that I'm actually going to make my main browser where we can actually run this Google sign-in over here. Okay, so as you can see, it's working perfectly fine in the localhost 5000, but as we discussed in the last part, if we click on sign in with Google, it's not going to get completed. You may be thinking, okay, Sanskar, it is showing, but if you will enter a particular email ID over here, for example, I enter my email ID and click on next, then it will show this error that this browser may not be secure and things like that. The browser did by Google, so it's just the problem with the debug. Excuse me. So now as you can see, if we open the same localhost 5000 in the main browser, okay, this is not the debug one, then the sign in with Google is going to work. When you will click on it, it's going to show all the different accounts you have, and I am going to select my account, which is the Indian app guy, and yeah, it's going to log me into that particular account. Okay, so now you can see this is what we did yesterday. We actually create in the last part actually, that we have this username, and we are showing the username which we are getting from the email account. Now in this particular step, what we want to do is we want to actually give the user and text field, okay, like this. So let's go ahead and create this. So how we are going to do that? Now the one thing which is a problem is actually when we are running it like this on localhost 5000, no, there will be no this one, like what is it called, I'm forgetting the name, restart and things like that. It's not going to be work like that. So it is a little bit trouble, honestly. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go inside the main. Let me give this one a try. Sorry. If we go to main.dart and change this home from sign in to home. I think this is not the best option. I think we can do it like that. Sorry. Again, why am I doing this? Because when we are opening the sign in screen, we cannot run or go to our home screen until we log in with Google, right? And we can only log in with Google in a normal screen, and if we do that with 5000, we will not be able to have that save and reload the screen instantly, things like that. So yeah, let me now make it home and run it again. So now it will run on a random localhost account, not account I should say, but yeah. So it will run on a random local host, and where the Google sign-in will not work, so we are directly going to show the home screen, which will actually give us some trouble. So the trouble is going to be that since what I'm doing, the way I have structured the database, I'm actually using the user ID. Okay, so this is the user ID of this the Indian app guy. So I'm going to copy the user ID and just saving it. Okay, it's not in, and yeah. So this is not something which I'm using right now, but I'll show you why I wrote it. Okay, so as you can see, we don't even are getting the username since we directly showed or directly opened this home screen. So we are not getting any name from the last screen of sign in, so that we can accept over here. So I'm just going to make it username like Sanskar Tiwari. We have to get rid of this final though. I think I can assign this over here. Is it like this? I'm not sure. Expected to find that. Okay. Let me give this a try, guys. So overall, what I'm trying to do, let's skip this. Okay, we are not going to show the username for now. Okay, so let's see what we have. First thing first, we need a column. Why am I creating a column? Because we need to structure these widgets in a vertical manner. You can see this text is above this text, and above this text field, and above this list of tasks. So first I'm going to create a text. In that text I'm just going to write my day. That's what it is, right? And I'm going to give it a style, and I'm going to say text style, and it has a font size. I'm not sure how much it is, so let's go with 18, and I think that should be fine. Yeah, there is not much into it. Then we need another text, and now this text is a bit comparatively little bit better. So this is actually something which we have. So we are going to show the day of the week, we are going to show the day of the month, and we are going to show the date. Okay, so where and how we can get these? So we can get these when we start this screen. Okay, this screen starts, and that is when the init state function is going to get called. So I'm going to create a string. Okay, that string is going to be the date. Okay, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a variable, and that variable is actually going to be called, let's say, now. So now is basically the time of now. That's what we are going to get. So I'm going to say date and time dot now. Sorry, I think I'm get it wrong. Okay, so this is how you get the time of right now. Now from this variable now, I can, let me do it like this. So inside date, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use this variable of date and time dot now to get all of these properties, which is the week, the month, the date. So how are we exactly going to do that? We are going to say now, not like this. We are going to use a dollar sign so that we can use a variable. Then we can say now dot, and you can see we have all these options: day, year, month, is, after, compare. We can compare it, we can get the millisecond, 2 iOS, and stuff like that. So first thing we want is the week. So for week we have an option, just a second, weekday. Okay, so it will return us an integer. Now that is the problem, because we want to show Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, like that. We don't want to show the number like 1 2 3 4, right? So that is the next problem which we will solve. First let's show the number only. So the second thing is we want to show the month. So I'll say now dot, and we have this month. Okay, then what is the task? Then we want to show the date as well. So I'm going to say now dot date. So we have this. Okay, so if I will save this, okay, it may take a little while and stuff like that, but basically this is going to show a number, right? It's going to show the week number, and my day is represented but date is not. Okay, so because I have not added that text, so I'm going to create a text, and in that text I'm going to use the date variable, and if I will save it now, it should be reflected over here. Also, you can see this is at the corner. That's not exactly the UI I'm looking for. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make this container inside another container. Okay, create a widget and container, and then I'm going to provide inside container a width of around 600. Let's just I'm providing, and I can provide a padding edge inserts dot symmetric, and I can say horizontal 24 and vertical 40 or maybe 32, I think will be fine, and make this alignment as center. So what am I doing again? Alignment dot center. So I just provided it a width so that even if I will make it like this whole screen thing, it should be like in the center. We don't want it to be stretched out and things like that. The next thing which I did, I provided some padding from top and bottom so that we can have a little bit of space. It's not like at the corner, and it does not look good in that way. Also, I provided the alignment to be in the center. I don't want that to be at the corner. So these are the things, but as you can see, we have 1 5 25. So today is Monday, and for Monday it shows the day of the week as 1. Okay, and if we talk about the next thing, which is this month, so the month is May, so it is showing us 5. So for now, what we can do, we can actually go over here and create a new package. Let me call it helper functions, and inside that I can create a new dart file, helper function, and now I can say import material. I don't think we will require material, so let's skip that. I'm just going to create a class. It's going to be called helper functions, and inside that class, what do we want? We want a function which can accept the integer. Okay, and basically that function is going to accept the integer and return us a string for the week. Let's say first let's create for the week. So first we write what is the return type of this function. So the return type of this function is a string. It's going to return a string. The name of the function is going to be get week. This is the name of the function. Okay, and we want to provide an argument as an integer, which is going to be, I'm just naming it day of the week. Okay, so it's day of the week. That's the variable or the integer which we are providing. So in this particular case, we are going to use switch case. So how switch case works is we basically can say switch and day of the week, and then we can provide different cases. So case number 1, where day of the week is equals to 0. In that case, what do we want? We want to return, actually it will not be 0, it's going to start from 1. I have tested it out. So it will start from 1, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and Sunday will be 7. Okay, so initially I did that wrong. I thought the Sunday will be 0 and it was showing null. So anyways, so in 1 it will be Monday, and then we will just say break. Now we can copy this from here to here, copy, paste, paste, paste. So it's 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. Okay, so number two is going to be Tuesday, number 3 is going to be Wednesday, number 4 is going to be Thursday, number 5 is going to be Friday, number 6 is going to be Saturday, number 7 is going to be Sunday. Okay, what happened? And now if I will save this, it's not going to have any effect. We have not used this function. So how can we use that? So I'm going to call this function and just provide this now.weekday inside of it. To use this function, first we have to say helper functions, because that's the class which have this particular function, and then we can easily use this. Now since helper function is not inside this, so we need to do that. And to use it, it's asking us to make it static. Okay, so now we can use this. If I will save this now, it will basically it should show us Monday rather than showing that. So similarly, like we did for the get week, we are going to do for get month. Okay, but this time we are going to say day of, or actually um, month of the year for right, and we can say get year. Okay, so for some reason it's not performing how or working how we wanted this to work, because right now as we can see we have 1525. We want the day of the week. So let me see, we have date and we have that. We are updating that. Okay, so I think it's not updated perfectly, so not to worry about it. Don't worry, we just can save it here. And for months we will that will be a total of 12. So I'm going to say 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So the first one is going to be January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September. I think AUG is fine. That's how we have it here. October, November, December, and January. Now, if I will say no, 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 just not saving. We have to first use this. So for using that, we are just going to define it over here and provide the integer value of now.month. We also need to use this helper function dot, so that we can access that particular function, because that function is not inside home.dart, it's actually inside helper function dot. So if we want to use that function, we have to first call this class, and then we can use all the functions which it includes. So yeah, we have this, and we actually don't want this to be in the center like this actually. um, so I think I can get rid of that. And if I will save this now, it should, this is what we are expecting. We should be able to see the date as Monday 25, Monday May 25. This is what we are expecting. The next step is going to be creating this text field and this add text. Okay, so congratulations, we are able to see this, but the center is not updated for some reason, I believe because I deleted it after that. So anyways, we don't have to worry about it, we can continue. So let me see, we are over here, we have this text. Okay, so the next step is I'm going to actually create a row. The reason for creating a row rather is basically because we want this text field and this add, you can call it a button, but it's actually a text. We want these to be aligned horizontally, so that's why I'm creating a row. And like always, row includes children, and those children are going to be, first is the text field. In text field I'm not going to provide a lot of things, but we do want decoration. If we want to um, input decoration, and hint text can be provided as task. Okay, so this is the hint decoration. Now we want a text field. So text is actually going to be add. We want a little bit of space, as you can see, between these add text and this particular text field we have a little bit of a space. So for that we are going to create a sized box, and we can give it a width of around 16, and then we have this text. So yeah, what is next now? Well, I think the next step is actually one thing which you can notice in this one is when I will write something, then only I will be able to see this one. If I don't have anything over here, then we are not able to see this add text. So how exactly am I doing this? For this one I am using text editing controller. So let me show you how exactly we can do that. So the first step for that is going to be going at the top and over here, text editing controller, and I can name this as a task editing controller. Controller is equals to new text editing controller. Is it fine? I think so. Have I misspelled? Okay, it seems like it's not able to understand. Okay, this one it is. So I can copy this, paste it if I'm misspelling. Okay, I use double T's. Okay, so how this text editing controller works is we can basically provide this to any text field as a controller, and then through this controller we will be able to access the text which the user has written at that or is there in that particular instant. Also we will be using on changed. So whenever a user is writing something, we want to use set state, and this is showing an error because whenever onChanged we use this function, we are going to accept a value which onChanged is providing, and that value is nothing but the text or the string which user has submitted to the text field. So if I submitted over here hello, this is the text which we are going to receive through this value in this onChanged function. So now what exactly I want is I want to test if this value is something or nothing. I mean, basically, if there is some text, then I would like to show this add button. But if there is no text, then I would like to not show anything. So for that, I'm just going to go over here, and I'm going to actually update this task editing controller dot text is equals to value. I think it's not very much required, but okay, anyways. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to just check to show this text field. I'm going to have a ternary operator. I don't know how it is exactly called, but this is what it is. Basically, we have a condition that this particular text, if it is dot is not empty. Okay, so we have these options. So is not empty, then we will show this text. Okay, or else, which is the next condition, which is this particular text or the, there is nothing in this text editing controller or the text field. In that case, I will just show a container, which means nothing. Also, whenever we are using a text field inside a row, what happens is a text field, by the very nature of it, tries to occupy as much space as much it can. So we have to wrap it inside a widget called expanded. Okay, to specify that yes, you can expand as much as you want, at the same time making sure that our app is not confused, or compiler is not confused on how to exactly provide a particular space to the text field. So let's wait for a second or so, and it should be updated, and I believe the user interface should be done till now, and we can move on to the backend, which is going to be integrating Firebase with this. So let's wait for a second and let's see if that works out. So since it was taking more time than expected, I just clicked on this close and then I run the app again. And now as you can see, we have this text field, and if I enter something, you can see now this is we are facing one error, which is this text seems like to be in the wrong side. So for that, I believe we just can make this one as commented. We don't need to update this task editing controller since it's already updated. Okay, so if I will save this now, and yeah, so basically it's working perfectly fine. As much as we can see that we will be able to write something and it will show the add option. Now the next step is actually to when we will click on this add button, we want to upload that task to our database. So first let me show you how the database of our app looks like and how are we exactly are going to structure the database. So let me just see if this is loading or not. It actually really takes more time whenever I'm like recording the screen comparative to what it is normally. So you may feel this whenever you are going to test this out yourself. You will see that it's not actually going to take this much amount of time, so don't worry. So let me click on this to do, and This is saying syncing file. So again, I'm going to do the same. I'm going to close this and rerun the app again. So what I'm doing, I'm opening up my last project, which is the one which is live on the internet, on the website. The link will be in the description. So I'm going to show you the database of how I have structured things and a little bit about how this whole database actually works. So just a second. So we are actually going to upload multiple things. The first of which is actually the user's info. So the user email ID, username. So we have a lot of users. So Tushar is, I'm sorry if your email, but yeah, basically, which one is mine? Sorry. Okay, I'm going to show a lot of emails over here, so I'm sorry, I'm not going to click on any other. I'm just going to click on this. So this is how you can see the database has been structured. I have a collection of users, and then I have created the document by the user ID of that particular user. And then inside of that, we have these fields of display name, we have the username, and then we have the user email. Then we have another collection inside of that document named as task. In that particular collection, we have these different documents. The name of the document is randomly created through the Firebase itself, and inside of that I'm actually saving multiple things. So the first one is date, which is not something which we are going to do, because what I have done, actually I have updated this website a little bit, a little feature, that when you will click on this down arrow, it will show this kind of the date, and we can actually sort it by date as well. So that's what I did. That's why but that is not something which we are going to include in this video. That's this series that so yeah, we will not be having this date option, but we will have this is completed option, we will have this task option, we will also have this time option if the time allows. Yeah, so this is how the like the data is structured. If you know not allow like understandable of how Firestore works, so basically you can think of it as a collection, maybe like kind of a book or a notebook having multiple pages, and in each page you have a particular specified data which you are saving. So for example, like on a daily basis you are saving something, what you did and things like that, register which like watchmen people like to use. So just think of it like that. And we have a book, we have different pages, and in different pages, if we want, we can name our pages according to our preference. So you may have seen people using 1 2 3 4 in their pages. Some people don't, or like kind of major people don't, but in some particular requirement we do have that particular preference. So in that case, what we can do is we can actually use this, use the user ID to create this account. The reason why I did this, to create the document, I'm using the user ID because when we are fetching it back, I don't want to actually first get the document ID. Rather, we can directly, just because the user ID is something which you will get from when you will log in with Google SignIn, right? So we can directly pass that into the home screen and we can use that. What I did is actually I saved it in the shared preference, but that's not something which we will do. So in this particular video, we will cover that in the next upcoming video. So yeah, so let me click on this, and we are basically creating the cloud Firestore now. It will take a little bit of time to create that, so let's keep it creating, and in the meantime let me see if this is running the Android Studio. So it's actually taking more time than expected. I'm not sure why is it happening like that, but it is saying that finished with an error, failed to connect with the application. This can happen when the WebSocket connection is unable to correctly. Okay, so this actually happens not many times, but usually, or the only time which I have faced this is when I'm creating a video. So don't worry, it's most of the things are working perfectly fine. So let me quickly show you how we are going to create it. So we will have users, and then will have a document ID, which is basically a user ID, okay? And then we will have a field of the display name as I have shown you before. So let's see how we can integrate all of this. So first, let me confirm if I have added that to the index.html. So yeah, we have added this Firebase auth for the Google sign-in, but we also have this Firebase Firestore. So now we can use the Firestore as well. Second thing which we need to confirm is in the pubspec.yaml we have added Cloud Firestore. Okay, so if the both of these are done, then you can just move on to the lib folder and create. Actually, we already have a services folder. So inside of that, you can just create a new Dart file which is going to be called database.dart and just click on OK. Now inside of this particular file, okay, this is too much. Okay, so inside of this, what we are going to do, we are going to create a class which is going to be called database services. Okay, now what we want? Well, we firstly want to create a function which is going to create the user and upload the user info. So we will say something like upload user info. Now for this particular function to work, we need to run that Google sign-in, because only that way we are going to be able to kind of fetch the data, send the data to the home screen, and then we can do whatever we want. So in this one, what we want to do, we will firstly say Firebase Firestore dot instance, okay, dot collection. So first we go to the instance, and then we want to create a collection inside there. So I'm going to name my collection users, as we saw before. Okay, inside the users we are going to provide the user ID. So user ID is not something which we are going to directly get over here, but rather we will get it from the argument. So I'm going to say string, and I'm going to say user ID. You can name it like user ID as well. So yeah, now I can say document, and then I can provide this string. So this is the name of the document. Now inside of that document, I want to add some particular data. Now how the data is added is by set data. So now you can see in set data, it accepts a map. So map is nothing but a key value pair. So that's how the data was structured as well, right? If you see last time that there was a data, basically display name was the key, and then there was a name, right? Email was a key, and there was a email over there, and things like that. So similarly, we will be passing up a map. So let me create a map, and let me name it something like user map. So this user map is nothing but the name of the user, display email, or sorry, display name and email of the user, and we will just pass this and do that. So let me do it set data, and then we have the sketch error. So we just are making sure if there is any error, this function is going to let us know. So then I can use a semicolon, and inside of this function I'm going to just print e.toString. Okay, so what did we did? We basically created this Firestore instance, and inside of that I'm creating a collection called users. Inside of users I'm creating a document with the document name to be user ID, and document have this data of user map. Okay, so when are we going to upload this? Well, we are going to upload this when we are signing in. So inside this function, so when we see that the result is not equals to null, which is the else condition, we are going to use this function. Similarly, how we used the helper functions, we have to first call the database. So we have to first call the class, and then only we can use this function. Okay, so one thing which you can see, because our this function is not static, we are not able to access it. In that case, we can do it like this and access it, okay, like that. Okay, so now what we can do, we have this upload user info. Now this upload user info accepts two positional arguments. The first is string user ID. So where can we get this? We can get it from there, user details dot user ID. Then the next thing which we require is the map. So how are we going to create the map? So we are going to say map, And as I mentioned, map have two things. The first one is the key and the second one is the value. Now, similarly to how we define other things like a list or like other things, in list we particularly define what is the data type of it. In map as well, we have to first define what is the data type of the key, which is going to be string for in our case, and then we have to define the data type for the value. For this case, I think the string will be fine since the username and user email is both going to be string, right? So that's why I'm taking both as a string. But if we have any particular requirement where the we are also using some other, integer or maybe like a string or things like that, multiple kind of data type, then we can just use a dynamic. Okay, so we will end this by a semicolon, and it's saying that we have, okay, so we have to give a name to our map, right? So the name is going to be user map. Okay, so now we have provided the name for the map. Now we have to define the key. So the key is going to be, let's say, user name, and then that is going to be user details dot user display name. This is how we can get the name from the user details which we got from logging in with Google. Okay, now I can pass this user map here, but before that I also want to save the email ID. So I can say email and I can pass in this one. So okay, as we can see, we have the username and we have the user email ID. The next thing which we actually want is just a second. Okay, so what's the next thing? Well, once we are inside of this function, whenever we will kind of submit a task, we want to save that in our database. So how that was arranged, that first we have this users, inside that we have this document of user ID, we have some data, also we have uh, another collection which consists of these tasks. So let's create another function for that, which is going to be update task. And there is a reason why I'm calling this update task rather than calling it create task, because the create task and update task function are very similar. There is just a word difference. So if you want, let's just create separately. Maybe it will be easier for you to understand. So yeah, so we have a create task function and we have a update task function. Inside the create task function, what we can see, we have to first do the same. We have to say Firestore dot instance, and then we will go inside the collection. It's going to be named same like this, users. Okay, and then we will say dot document. We need the user ID for this. Okay, so I'm going to say string user ID. So now we are accepting that user ID as an argument for this function. So we have the user ID. Now, rather than setting the data over here, what do we want? We want to create a collection. So you can see we will say collection, and that collection was called task. That's how I called it. You can call it something else, like whatever. Yeah, so inside the task, in this particular time, I don't want to give my document a particular string. I want it to be random, however you want. So in that case, what we do, we click on add. So now I believe you are clear about how to do both of the things. The first thing was using a document with a custom name, or using a random name. So this dot document, then providing the document name, and dot set data, then providing the map, is same like this dot add. The difference is, in this one the name of the document was provided by us, and in this one the name of the document will be randomly generated by Firebase itself. Okay, so we need to accept the map as well. So I'm going to say map, and then I'm going to say the name of the map. So the name can be something like task map. Okay, so as much as I can remember, task map consists of the task and what was there, and is completed, right? So that's the two things which we will be passing. So let me paste it here and like that. Okay, so what is the next thing which we want to do? I'm going to close the auth. I'm going to close the helper function. It's completed for now, and I'll be back to this home.dart, and over here what do I want? Well, I'm thinking that when someone will click on this text, so if we want to have a click property on any text, then what do? We wrap it with a widget which is called gesture detector, and inside of that we are going to have an on tap property, and on tap function will be, just a second, yeah, in on tap what do we want to do? Well, when we will click on this, first I would like to get like make this clear. So as you can see over here, something, or like, this is my task. When I will click on add, you can see it's removed from here. So that's the first thing which we want to do. What is that? I want to clear this text editing controller. So I'll say text editing controller dot text equals to nothing. Okay, so I'm clearing the text field first of all, and the next step is I want to upload that task to the database. So for that exact thing, I have created this function called create task. To use that function over here in home.dart, while it is created in database.dart, we will say database, and then we will say services, database services dot create task. Now we need to import this first. So I'm going to import, and now I'll be able to use this create task function. So inside this create task, as we can see, it accepts two um, arguments. The first one is the user ID and the second one is the map. So I'm going to use the user ID from, okay, where is it? Yeah, over here. So I'm going to just copy this, and so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to accept that user ID from the shared preference. That's what I'm going to do later on. For now, let me just do it with this. I'm just creating a variable directly right now, because as you know, we will not be able to log in with Google and perform the updates simultaneously. So that's why this is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to use this user ID. I'm going to pass user ID, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to have this map. So now I need to pass the task map. So let's create this task map. So I will say map. Now this time the map key is string, but in this map the values will be of a different data types. The task will be string, but the is completed is going to be a boolean, which is bool. So in this case we will use dynamic. Okay, I'll call it task map, and I'll say the first key is going to be task, and that is going to be this dot text. So we will remove the text once all things are done. Okay, when even after once we uploaded the task to the database. Let me make sure we have the rules for that we are, kind of, the user is allowed to upload, because when you will create the database for the first time, the rules are false. You can see allow read and write is false. So I'm just going to make that true for now and click on publish, and you can see it's updated. So basically what we did, we updated the rules that now the data can be uploaded. Well, the rules can be little bit better. Like, we can specify that we only want the user to be able to update or see or read the data if he is authenticated. We will do that later, but for now it's allowed, so that we can at least upload data and fetch the data. Okay, so what's the next step? First, let me end this with a semicolon. Second, we need to add another key, which is completed. Initially this is going to be false. Why false? Because initially it's not completed, right? That's fine. Okay, now we can pass this task map and it should be uploaded. Okay, so we have created one for create task. Now we can create one for update task. So how is this update task going to work? Well, basically what I'm going to do update task is, when I will click on this, okay, so you can see I'm showing this check mark, and also I'm like cut through in this particular text, right? So for this particular thing, what we need is I'm going to update this. Where is it? Is completed to true whenever someone will click on this, and if it's already true, then I'll make it false. Okay. Yeah, seems a little bit complicated. Don't worry, it's not. If Yeah, by the way, I did not mention it, but if you have any trouble, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comment section. I'll be more than happy to help you out in that. Okay, so now what do we want? Well, we have this map created, we have things. Also, like, you may be thinking, why are you not like running it side by side? Because you saw, like, it's not that it's causing some trouble, especially when I'm recording and building it right away. And believe me, it's not going to be that much trouble if you will be creating it while not creating a video tutorial about it. So yeah, and hopefully you will be doing like that. So in update task, it will be same like this. As I mentioned, the only thing is the task will be different. So as I said before, I think we don't need this create task. We can just be okay with update task. Okay, so again, why did I remove the create task? Because create task and update task are basically same functions. The only difference is going to be in this map, because in the map of the create task, the value of is completed is always going to be false. But in the case of update task, when I'm doing this click and not click and stuff like that, like check and not check, I'm just basically sending the data that is completed to be true or is completed to be false, like that. So let me go back to the home and do this. So first let me call this update task. So this is going to be working perfectly fine. Now the time now is to get all of these tasks. So if we have uploaded these texts, we should be able to fetch all the text, okay, from the database. So how exactly we can do that? Well, in this case, I have actually used a stream builder. Now you may be thinking, what is a stream? A stream is basically, let me first say why I used the stream. So the reason why I used the stream is, um, this particular data which you're seeing over here, it's live sync with the database of online. So it's not just happening over here. So when I click on this, the data in our database is actually updating to is completed is equals to true. So even if I close this screen and open this again, it will be true over here. So the example of that can be shown that, for example, in 22, I have these particular different tasks which okay, sorry, not 22, it was on 21, I believe. Yeah, so these were the tasks. So I make them completed, they will be completed. If I will come back, you can see it's still completed. So that's what I'm saying. I'm uploading these or updating these in the real time or instantly whenever we are showing it over here. Also, whenever I add any task, so I am adding some task here and clicking on add, you can see it's added over here, adding some task, right? And instantly it's added. So we don't have to refresh the screen and stuff like that. So to do that, we actually use something called stream. This is something which you may have learned in a previous series which I did, called creating a Flutter blog app with Firebase and Flutter. If you have not watched it yet, I will highly recommend it, uh, so that you can get much clear. But yeah, obviously first complete this one, and then after that you can watch that one as well. It is a good one. Okay, so let's continue to do that. So what do we want to do? We want to fetch all the different tasks we have, and we want to show them in a list view. So I'll create a function firstly to get the task. So I'm going to say get task, as simple as that. Inside of that, I don't exactly know what are the things we are going to accept. So first go and create, and we will figure it out while doing it. So we will first go inside the collection of users. So how do we fetch data? Well, we are basically going to do the same step of defining where do we want the data from. So we want this from this particular collection. After this collection, we can just say get documents, or we can say snapshots. The difference between get documents and snapshot is, when we say get document, we are actually getting a query snapshot. Query snapshot is something which is the instant data, or what is data at that particular instant. So it's going to be one time thing. So for example, once I will receive the data, it's not going to be updating, right? While if I get this snapshot, snapshot provides us a stream of query snapshot, which means that this snapshot, or this particular data which I'm fetching, it will be in sync with the data, the database online. So if anything updates over there, it will be fetched and it will be updated on my UI. So that's why I'm using streams or snapshot. So let me cut that, and we actually will need the same thing. So let me why not copy this and save a second or so. And we will say collection, then a snapshot. Okay, so as we can see, we will be requiring this user ID, and that's all. That's why I structured my database like this. We don't need a lot of stuff to get the user task. We just need the user ID, and we will be able to fetch all the different tasks of the user. So now what we can do, we can get this by creating a stream over here. I'm going to create a stream. And again, like, what is a stream? A stream is basically a flow of data. That's how it is called. So basically, you whenever it rains, you have a boat, you put the boat at one side, and through the water waves it's going to the other side. So that's kind of how the stream work in a nutshell. Like, you have some data which is updated at your database online. So it will be like, like your ship, and it will be coming from there to our app whenever it updates. So whenever you are putting another boat, it will go with the flow and go wherever it's going. And the flow in this case of stream is from our Firebase database to our app or the website. Okay, so let me call this stream, what should I call this? Task stream. I think that's fine. Task stream. Okay, so when are we going to get the data? We are going to get the data inside this init state function. So we are going to say, first, to use that, we will say database. Now, one thing which I notice is I'm using this database service again and again. So a better way to do this is going to be creating a variable for this. So I can just say database service is equals to new database service. So now I don't have to write this again and again. I can just use this function, and I can do the same thing. You can see database service dot update task. So over here I will say database service dot get task, and we need to pass the user ID. So user ID is this. Okay, so now we have dot get task, we have the user ID, and I can now say dot then is basically what will happen once this is done. So once this is done, we will receive a value. I'm not actually returning this, so we have to actually return this. In this case, the returning was not the thing why we are calling this function. This function is a function which does something. This function is something which does not does anything, but it actually gets the data from the database, and it returns it so that we can save it somewhere or utilize it, use it, show it, whatever we want to do with that. So that's why we are returning this over here. Also, we will be making it await because it will take some time. Now, if you don't know much about asynchronous programming of Flutter or Dart especially, so basically why I use this async and await is, in a nutshell, in short, you can understand it like this. For example, I asked for this data, and without waiting for a second or so, I just get whatever they have. So since it will take some time for them to get the data, if I will get the data even when they don't get that data from online, in that case it will be always null. Let me repeat what I said. So I said that if we are getting the data even before we are able to fetch that data from the database, it will be always null. So what we do, we use this asynchronous thing, which means that we are going to wait until we get the data, then only we are going to return it. So in this case, the data is not going to be null of the time, but actually the exact data which we have in our database. Okay, so now what do we want? Well, we are accepting this value. We want to use it in a function. So in this function, we will basically do this task stream is equals to this value, and this value is nothing but this what we are returning. Okay, so let me explain this again. We use this function, we call this get task function, which is returning a value, and we are using this then function, and then this is the value which we are getting from this get task, and we are saving that value to the task stream. Now, one thing which is also there is that we want to set state. Why am I using this set state? Set state basically is going to refresh my screen with the newly updated data. So now we need to create the list view. So for creating a list view, we can directly go ahead and create it over here, just below this row. We can go ahead and create a list like this, but I usually prefer to keep it separate a little bit. It's just your preference, but you can just create a widget, and I think it should be like widget, right? Widget, and I'm going to name my widget task list. Okay, before creating the widget or creating the list of tasks, we need this task tile. It's a custom tile. Now you may be thinking, Sanskar, what is tile? So tile is nothing but basically, the tile is a word which you see, a list tile, which Flutter have. List tile is kind of a list item which is pre created out of the box for you, which have this title, description, and things like that. So whenever I create any list item, I usually name it list, or actually whatever the item or the name of the list is, then tile. So in this case, I will create a task tile. So task tile is nothing but the list item of task list. So what do we have this in this one? So well, we basically have three things. The first is actually a container. Okay, it's the checkbox with this circular thing. Then we have a text. Then we have this icon of close. All of these three things are aligned horizontally. To align a different widget horizontally, we use row. So how do we do that? We basically say row, we say children's, then inside that, first, as I mentioned, this is a container which have this circular border with a circular kind of a ring. You can say circular border with a color. Um, so we will say container. Okay, and this container consists of this icon, which is the checkbox. So I'll say child icon icons dot checkbox. I think it's check, right? Now this check is actually green in color, so I'll say colors dot green. Okay, now this is green in color, but Sanskar, I don't can see it. Okay, it's not always visible. It's only visible if it is completed. So we will be showing this only when it is completed. So how we can do that? We can use variable. So I'm going to create a variable called bool, and this is going to be is completed. Okay, then I'm going to say task tile, which is constructor, and inside that I can use this dot is completed. So we are like getting this value. Whenever someone will call this task tile, he can provide this value and can use this stateless widget. Now I am going to use another variable as well, which is going to be string, which is task itself, right? Because in this style we also want to show this task. So I'll say this dot task. Okay, so we have these two things. Also we want to make them final because we are not going to change them anytime. You may have one more question, which is why do we use the stateless widget when we can also use a stateful widget? Well, the reason is we actually will use a stateful widget. Sorry for that. The thing is, as you can see, it's not a static list item. Whenever I will click on it, I actually want to update it. So in this particular case, we will be using a stateful widget, not a stateless widget. Okay, so let me come back over here and define that I only want to have this icon as a child if the task is completed. So now if we are using a stateful widget, how do we use these variable which we are accepting through the arguments? We say widget dot, then we can say is completed question mark. Now this is icon. So this is what we want if it is completed. What if it is not completed? Then I will just return a container. Why am I returning a container? Because container is kind of nothing. So basically nothing. Okay, that's what we are returning if it's not completed. Okay, so I think the checkbox is done, Sanskar, but what about this ring kind of which you have created, the circular one? So for that, we are actually going to provide our container a decoration. Okay, so it's going to be decoration, it's going to be input decoration, and that input decoration is going to be, sorry, it's not going to be input decoration, it's going to be box decoration. We use input decoration for text field and we use box decoration for the container. So over here what we are going to do, we are going to say border, this one, and we will say box border. No, I think it's border.all, border.all. So when we use border.all, we can basically provide the color, we can provide the width. So I'm going to provide colors dot black, we can go with 87 I believe, and then I can say so we have provided the color, now we want to provide the width, so I'm going to say width dot 1. We need to say color. Now it is fine. So we have this color and the border. Now if I will save this and show you right now, it will be showing us a square, not this circular ring. So we also want to provide a border radius to this. So I'm going to say border radius, and we will say border radius dot circular, since we want to provide the same border radius from all the four sides, you know. So to provide it like a circular shape, we can provide as much like the radius we want. So I'm going to use the width of 30 and height of 30 and also the border radius of 30, which will make it circular. Okay, so we have created this and the border will be visible always, like either it is completed or not completed, we will be showing the border, so it's not a case. Now the second thing is adding the task. Okay, so let me go over here and create a text which is going to show the task. How can we access that? We can say widget dot task. Now we are going to provide it some styling, so I'm going to say style, text style. Okay, now inside of this text style, first thing first, I'm going to provide the color to it, or because you can see the one which is not completed is kind of in dark color comparatively, right? So what I can do, I can say color widget dot is completed. So if it is completed, in that case I'm going to provide the same color, colors dot black 87, which I provided to the border. Okay, as you can see. But if it's not completed, then it's a little bit lighter shade, so I'm going to say colors dot black 87 dot with opacity 0.7. Okay, I'm using black 87, so let me make sure I'm using 87 over here as well. And here's what I did, I basically made the opacity of 0.7 for this one, so it will be little bit lighter compared to the normal one. Okay, so the next thing which we want is the font size. So I'm just going to give it a font size of something like 17, and then we want decoration. So I'm going to say decoration. Why am I using decoration? Because we want this line through decoration. Okay, this one. So if it is completed, then only we want this. So I'm going to say widget dot is completed. question mark. So if it is completed, in that case I want to show this line through. So how can we show that? We are going to say text decoration dot line through. But what if it is not completed? In that case I am going to say text decoration none. So basically there is no text decoration. Okay, so this all is done. The next thing is we want this cross icon. So for that I can just say icon, and then I can say icons dot cross. And what I sorry, it's close, I believe. Yeah. So also one thing which I faced was this icon was little bit of more height than required. So I think I provided it a little bit lesser size. We can go with something like 30. Okay. And if you want, because this color is bit lighter compared to black, so we can use this color black 87 with opacity 0.7 for this one. Okay, so now we have also provided a color to our icon. Okay, so far we have created the list item. Now the next step is going to be using this list item to create a list of tasks. So I'm going to come back to my widget, and here I'm going to say return. Okay, now what am I going to return? I'm going to return a stream builder. So how a stream builder works is basically it will ask for a stream, so we will provide that stream to be the task stream which we created. And once we create that, then what do we want? Well, once we do that, then we will be creating the builder for it. So let me show you how we are going to do that. So I'm going to say stream builder, and inside that we have a stream, and then we have this task stream which we created. Then we have this builder. In builder we provide context, and we also provide the snapshot. It's not actually providing, it's something which we get from the stream itself. We have to end this with a semicolon. Okay. Inside this builder, we are going to return a list view.builder. Now, for the list view.builder, we have two must properties. The first is the item count, and second is the item builder. So for the item count, we can use this snapshot, and we can say dot data dot length. I think that's how we do that. The data leng. Actually, we will say documents. Okay, documents. Okay, so for item builder, it takes context and index. So this index can be utilized when we are like returning items. So I'm going to say return, and now we will be using that task tile which we used before. So task tile. At any time, if you feel things are getting a little bit out of your mind, you're not able to understand each and everything, don't worry. The problem is not that many people face this problem. Nobody understands at the first time. So what I will recommend, to complete this app first, and then you can move on to the other series which I have created, like the blog app which I done. It will also help you a lot in understanding the Firebase, or at least mastering it, because once you will do things multiple times, you can see the pattern in that, and it becomes really easy for you to do comparatively if you are trying to learn it in just one go. So don't worry, just be with it, complete this project, and then the next project you can do the Flutter blog app. I'll uh, like give the link in the description, or you can just visit my channel to find it, or I'll also add the link in the card so that it is easily accessible for you. But yeah, okay, so what do we want to add more? Well, the next thing which we want is we want to pass these values. So to get these values from our database, we will say snapshot dot data dot documents, then we provide the index dot data. Now we will say the variable name which we provided when we were uploading this. So we want this task, so whatever the variable name which we mentioned, variable name is basically the key which we have online. So it's task and I'll copy this, and then we have this is completed key, so I'm going to pass this in here, and then we will end this with a semicolon. So far, let me go through things what we have done. We basically created that whenever someone will click on this add text, which should be a little bit broader actually. What I mean is basically this text alone will be very small, so I'm just going to wrap it with a container and provide it some padding. Edge insets dot symmetric, horizontal 16, maybe 8, maybe 12, maybe 6. Okay, so what did I did? I basically provided some horizontal padding and maybe some vertical as well, so that it's easy to click on this. User don't have to worry that he have to exactly click on this ad. He can click a little bit sidewards and it will still work. Okay, so whenever the user will click on this ad, we are calling this function of update task, which basically accepts the user ID and the map, and it's going to upload the task to our database. Then we are also fetching that data whenever the app starts or this screen starts, so that we can show it in a list view. And let me do the final thing, which is deleting this. So to delete any particular data from our database, we will create a function which is going to accept the document ID and just delete that particular one. So let me create that. So I'll go over here and I'll name it delete task, which is something which will happen once we will click on this. Okay, so this is my task, and I can click on this and it will be deleted. So delete task. So delete task, I'm not sure what we need, so let me just continue with this. I'm going to say Firestore dot instance dot collection will be users dot document we need to provide the user ID. I hope this is clear to you what we are doing. We are basically going inside the same task list again, so you can just copy this again back like that. It's not something. Okay, so we are going inside the document, then inside this collections. Okay, once we are inside this collection of tasks, we are going to say dot document. Now this is important, we need the document ID to delete that document, so I'm going to say string document ID. Now to get this document ID, how can we get that? We will see that. Okay, don't worry, we will actually get it in the home dot dart. But what do we want? We basically want to provide that document ID over here, and then we can say dot delete, and then we can have the catch error. Let me know if you face any error like this. Sorry, print e.toString. Let me make it easy for you to understand like this and add a semicolon. Okay, so what do we did? We firstly go inside this users collection, inside the document of user ID, inside the collection of task, inside that we go inside the document, like a particular document of the task, and we just delete that document. Now, the important thing is we need this document ID. So how can we get that? So if I will go to the home back, let me add this to our tile first, because we will be requiring this when we click on this icon. Okay, so because we want to perform something when we click on this icon, I'm going to use gesture detector. Okay, and inside gesture detector I'm going to use the on tap property. So on tap I will use this function, so I can say data. Now the variable which we created over there will not be usable here. Which one? This one. Okay, so that's why I'm just going to call it like this, database service dot delete task. Now this accepts the user ID, so user ID can be provided. And as I mentioned before guys, this user ID later on we will be using shared preference in the next video, and we will change it from using it like this to using it from shared preference. Okay, what is the problem? Sorry. Okay, so I just made this variable global for now because we want to use it in this stateless widget as well, a stateful widget. So we provided the user ID. Now how can we get the document ID? For now we are just going to make it widget dot document ID and create a new variable over here. I'm going to name it final, and the document ID is going to be a string, guys. So I'm going to say document ID, human ID, and I'm going to accept that through the constructor. So this dot document ID. Now document ID is something which we can actually save, how we are saving the task and is completed, but that's not the best way to do so. I'm going to say that dot get so yeah, let me first say what I was saying. So what I was saying is we can actually save how we are saving task and completed. So whenever we are sending this task and is completed, we can actually create a document ID and save that to our database as well, and we can fetch that whenever we are fetching it this. But how we are going to do is by like this. So what you can do is over here, rather than calling the data, you can say document and ID. So you can see we don't have to save the document ID ourselves. We can use it like this and it should work perfectly fine. So the delete function should work as well. So overall I think we have completed this section. So let me run this app, and basically I can see the things which are left in this app is number one, the shared preference, which we will add in the next video. This video is already quite long, but hopefully definitely I think if you watch till the end, there is a lot to learn for you, especially about the Firebase, and you can understand like how easy things are. Also, if you're learning this for the first time, you may feel some things to be a little bit tough comparatively, but don't worry about it. As I mentioned before, just go and create some another apps with Firebase, and I already have some other series with this as well, so you can utilize that and master Flutter and Firebase. So I'll wait for a minute or so. I don't think it will take a minute, but still. And once this is running, I'll be. Okay, so it's finally running. One thing which you can notice is this is in the center. We will fix this one. The second thing is if we will write any task, for example, I write this is new task. So this is already working. So you can see this add is only visible when we are writing something. So this is task. So that's good. If I will click on this add, the task is getting removed, but I'm not able to see the list. For the problem for that is we created the widget of the task list, but we forget, not we, but I forget to add that inside this. So to add it, we just have to go after this row. So after this row, I'm just going to say task list and like that, and we will be able to use this. So I'm just going to restart a hard restart the app again, and it should work perfectly fine. Other than that, I feel we need to test if the data has been uploaded to the database or not. So let me refresh this Firebase console, and hopefully that task which we right now wrote, that this is a task, should be updated to the database similarly to how we seen before. So we have this users collection. Great. We have the user ID. Hopefully this is the user ID. Let me compare. So we have G and H1 and stuff like that. Okay, so that's the user ID. If I will click on the task, we have task and we have this random ID generated, and inside that we have this is completed false and task to be, this is task. Perfect. We are able to kind of get these. Now the other problem is I think it's, I don't know guys, it's causing some problem while running, so sorry for that, but hopefully this should be this is something they can work on. Why is it not running? Let me close this and rerun the app again. Okay, so as you can see, the first thing which is happening is this pop-up of see text and images copied to the clipboard. This is something new to the Google Chrome browser. So you don't have to worry about this. But yeah, one thing which you may have noticed that it was fully red initially, which is a really bad experience. I'm not sure if that is shown when we launch it, but yeah. So to get rid of that, what we have to do, we will go inside this list builder. So the problem is basically initially this task stream is actually null, right? So we don't want to show the list view until and unless the task we have something in task stream. So what we can do, we can use this snapshot, which is basically getting the data from the task stream, and say snapshot dot has data. So this have this. So we can say question mark, and only if it have data, then only we will be showing the list view, or else we will just show a container. So by this way, we are getting rid of that red kind of whole thing which happened. The another thing is this bottom overflowed by some pixels. So this actually is the problem, because since we are using a list view inside a column, so we have to do some things. The first one is actually we need to use shrink wrap. Without using this shrink wrap, the list view will not be visible. As we can see, the list view item is not visible. Also, since the screen is a little bit bigger than not bigger in the sense of this one, but basically we want things to be scrollable, right? For example, if these tasks become more than they can be on the screen, then we need a little bit more space. So for that, I'm going to wrap my container in a widget which is called scroll. Actually, it's single child scroll view. Okay, single child scroll view. So when we will use this, it will be getting rid of this bottom overflow. So if I will save this now, I'm not sure if I saved it here, but yeah. Too many things to hot restart. I clicked over here, I clicked on save, and I also reloaded it over here. Let's see how much time it takes. Okay, so it's not happening like that. Let me try it like this. Don't worry about that. I was, but then I realized it's not causing any particular problem, honestly. So yeah, as you can see, it's working perfectly fine. Now let me so as you can see, we don't have that red. uh, Now we do. So it says expected a value type of a bool but got one type of string. So it is saying that it was expecting a value of boolean, but it got the value of. Okay, now the problem is, guys, we are saying that the first one is completed and the second one is the task. But over here we are giving the first one is the task and the second one as a completed. So that's why it's saying that it expected to get a boolean value, but it is getting a text. So in that case, we can now just do this and restart it again. Maybe it may show that pop-up. In that case, we can just click on this reload option. Now that should be fixed. Hopefully this is clear. What was the problem? Well, the problem was in this. Sorry for this pop-up, it's not big of a problem, but yeah. So in this task tile, initially the first thing which we are accepting is completed, but initially what we were passing was this task. So rather than getting a boolean value, it was getting a string. That's why it was showing that problem. Okay, so now it's loading. Okay, so we can. Okay, so now you can see this is the whole. If I click on this, is it updating? Okay, so we have not implemented this completed thing, right? Updating that. So that's something which we will do, and we need a little bit of space over here. We need a lot of space between this cross and the text. So let's fix this. So how can we fix this? Well, the first thing is we want the text and in this icon a large amount of space, as much as space as we can. For that, we use the spacer inside of row. So okay, fine, we have now a spacer. So spacer, what a spacer will do, it will try to occupy all the space between or as much as it can, and it will place this X at the corner. Secondly, we want a little bit of space between this container and this text. So I'm going to say sized box width of around, let's say 8. I think 8 will be more. Let me just go with 6. Okay, I think yeah, we can have a little bit more, it's not that of a problem. So we are going to use a width of 8. Next thing which I can notice, the container is very big compared to what we want, so I'm just going to make it something like 24. Not sure if 24 is going to be fine, but I think 24 is good enough. Okay, so let me make it 24. Okay, so now what we can do, anything else we want? Yeah, the next thing is, what we want is when we click on this container, we want to make this as completed or as incompleted. So let me wrap this with a gesture detector. Why I'm wrapping it with a gesture detector? Because I want to use the on tap property. Why do we want to use the on tap property? Because we want to do something when the user clicks on this particular widget. What is the widget? The widget is container. Okay, so inside of that we want to update something, so we are going to call this same function. Yeah, that may be strange, but don't worry. We're going to say data base service, and then dot sorry, update task. We need to pass the user ID, so user ID is already available, I hope so. Is it user ID? I don't think so. How did we get it over here? So we get it as a UID. Sorry, it's not user ID, it's UID here. So UID, and then we have to pass this map. So let me create the map. The first thing is going to be the key is a string type, and the values are of dynamic. Now let me show something interesting. So let me call it task map, and one thing which you may know already is that we don't want to update the task. Okay, the task will be as it is. The only thing which we want to update is this key called is completed. Also try to make not try, make sure that this key which we used when we are creating and when we are updating are same. So is completed. So we want this to become is completed. Sorry. So what did I did? Well, whatever we are getting right now. So right now, since it is a completed, so if I will click on this, it will make it incompleted. Now since it is a completed, if I will click on it, it will make it completed. So incompleted, completed, completed, incompleted. So basically whatever the it is right now, it will flip that. So if it will be completed, it will become incompleted. If it will be incompleted, if it will become completed. That's why I use this not. Now the other thing is, let me end this with a semicolon first. You may be thinking, but Sanskar, we are not passing that task, right? So should we pass that task? We don't have to. What we can do is I can go to update task, and over here where I'm saving the task, I can say merge. Okay, so since it's causing a little problem, let me just change them, and I can say merge. So we can just go over here and update task. Why am I creating it again? So what we want to do is, whenever we are updating that task, we want to merge it. So as I mentioned before, we want to learn how to update the data in the Firebase database. Um, this is actually to create the data. So for update the data, what we want is, we are inside this collection, we are inside the document of user ID, then we are inside this collection of tasks, and then we are adding this, right? So we cannot update it like this. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to generate the that myself. So this is not going to be very, so let me do it. The first thing which we will need is a random string generator. So you can just visit pub.dev packages random string, import that. Why am I using this? Well, I'm using this because, okay, I already have that. Copy that, and you can sync. I don't have updated anything. So yeah, what basically I'm going to do, I'm going to pass in the document ID whenever I'm creating a new task. Why am I doing it? Why I'm not lifting it to the to Firebase? Well, in that case I would have to create another function, and I can actually do that. So let me do that. You may be a little confused, don't worry. So the problem which what happened is, either I can do it that way or I can do it like this. So I can say create task. So just give me a second, let me show you. So I have created the same function. You can see I just copied, pasted, and changed the name of the function to create task. So this is responsible for creating the task. In update task, what we want, because we are not going to just directly .add, because .add is going to create a new document with a new ID, and that's not what we want. We want to update the existing one, and the existing one have a document ID of itself, which we need to pass. So I'm going to say string document ID. So this is something it will need. So I'm going to pass that document ID, and rather than add, what did we do? We do set data, and then we can do this merge to true. Excuse me. So now this one will work perfectly fine. Come back, widget dot document ID. So let me clear that again. What did we do? Since whenever we want to change a particular document, we need to pass in the document ID. So that's what we did. We added this dot document, then dot set data, and then we set it the same map, but we clicked on merge. So what merge does, it will merge the data of whatever was before and what we are providing right now. Okay, so with that being said, okay, one thing which I can also see, I need a little bit of a top padding in this one. So for that, I'm just going to go inside my list view widget, which is over here. And where is the list view? Here it is. In the list view, there is a padding property. So I can say padding. I can say edge inserts dot only, and I want from top only. I don't think I want from left and right, so I'm just going to provide that to be 16. I can close this and rerun the app again. Okay, so now you can see it's perfectly visible. Let me click on allow, which will allow us to write a task. So I'm going to say this is my second task, and I can click on add, and you can see it's visible. If I will click on this, it shows me this check mark, and it's getting this line through as well, so which is beautiful. And I did add this one wrongly, because you can see when it's not clicked, then it's light. So that's not how we wanted. We wanted that when it is completed or is completed, we want this to be a little bit better in color, but is completed. Okay, so whatever, basically when it is completed, we want this to be checked, and it's not. So it's working perfectly fine. A little bit of just the shape and things to be worked on, providing that padding and stuff will work. But at the end of the day, I think most of the things are done. In the next video, we are going to start working on shared preferences, and we will basically bundle up all the different things, shared preferences. We will also upload and host our app on Firebase hosting, so that's going to be really interesting. So don't miss out that video. And till now, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to click on the subscribe button, make sure to hit that like button. It really helps me understand if you're enjoying the content or not, and a good comment will be also helpful to motivate, because these kinds of videos require a lot of times to create, and a little just comment of saying how was your experience with this video will be quite motivating. So yeah, I'll see you in the next one, and bye bye.